Hi, today we're going to talk about the structures and functions of an animal cells. So just like us humans, animals make up of cells too. The cells and organelles that contain them perform specific tasks in order for the animal to basically stay alive and healthy. But what are these amazing structures that happen to be so important in life? Let's find out. First, we have the cell membrane, also known as the plasma membrane. So the cell membrane is responsible for the overall configuration of the cell. You can see from this model that the cell membrane just lies around this corner. And not only it is responsible for the overall shape of the cell, but it also protects the organelles from its outside environment so they don't mix up. Another thing is that since the cell membrane is semi-permeable, it only allows specific materials to go in and out of the cell. It regulates what comes in and out of the cell. For example, here is your oxygen and here is your nutrients. The cell membrane will allow these two particles to come in and carbon dioxide out. Now we have the cytoplasm, The cytoplasm is a jelly-like substance that allows organelles outside of the nucleus to move within the cell. It is mostly filled with water, and this is the location where certain or some chemical reactions take place. Next, we have the ribosomes. These spherical shaped organelles are found freely floating around the cytoplasm or attached to the rough endoplasmic reticulum. And despite being so small in shape, it actually has two major subunits. The first one is the small ribosomal subunit, and the other one is the large ribosomal subunit. And the ribosomes are mainly involved in the production of proteins that are needed for the cell. Now let's proceed to the endoplasmic reticulum. The endoplasmic reticulum is a tube-like structure that can be found throughout the cytoplasm. Some people call it the intracellular highway of the cell because it allows transportation of certain materials from one cell to another or just within the cell. The surface can either be rough endoplasmic reticulum or smooth endoplasmic reticulum. The rough endoplasmic reticulum has proteins on its surface, and the smooth endoplasmic reticulum does not. Next up is the Golgi bodies. This is where proteins are being mixed together with other materials that are meant to be pushed towards the other membrane-bound organelles. And once packaged and modified, the Golgi bodies will eventually bud off a specific vesicle and will move itself towards the organelles where it's most needed. Next is the mitochondria. Everybody knows this, it's the powerhouse of the cell. But let's talk a little bit about its structure first before we proceed to the functions. Now this is just a zoomed in of the mitochondria from the model. This right here is the outer membrane, and it has a very high permeability because it only allows certain materials to go in and out of the mitochondria. And this second layer here is the inner membrane, and it has low permeability. And this inner folded structure here is called the cristae. And as cool as it may sound, the mitochondria also has its own DNA called the mitochondrial matrix. Now that we know a little bit about its structure, let's now talk about its functions. So the mitochondria produces an energy called the ATP or adenosine triphosphate. And this energy is being used by all the other organelles in order to carry out their specific functions. Without the mitochondria, the organelles will not be able to perform their tasks because they have no energy or source of power. Now we have the lysosomes. These are also called the suicidal bags because they allow themselves to explode or burst out when needed. They contain a lot of digestive enzymes that are responsible for breaking down food and eliminating waste that are not needed for the cell, the cytoskeleton. The cytoskeleton is a pretty interesting organelle to talk about because, as we know, it provides the fixed structure of the cell. It also has proteins called protein locomotors in order for the cell to move around. And lastly, we have the nucleus. Now, the nucleus is found in the center of the cell, and it's called the control center of the cell or the demand center of the cell. And why is that? Because it basically demands or mandates everything that the organelle has to do or not to do. And if we take a closer look into the nucleus, we can see the thread-like structure called the chromatin, where all the genetic and hereditary information is placed. Thank you for taking your time to listen to my simple orientation about the animal cell. I hope you learned a lot, and see you next time.